Howdy, folks. I'm Testy Tin, tauntingly terrorizing timid tadpoles.
I'm Amber.
And here are more timid tadpoles for us to terrorize. Why not? We'll lean into it. Let's get started. Alright, folks, our first letter is titled. I'm 6 months pregnant, a 25-year-old female, and my boyfriend is a 28-year-old male. And he jumped out of a moving car on the highway during an argument today. I'm a 25-year-old female, and my boyfriend, a 28-year-old male, were on the way to an ultrasound this morning, which is an appointment that I had to make 3 months ago. He worked a night shift, so I told him that if he wanted to come along to the ultrasound, that I would drive so he can rest. We don't have a toxic relationship, and we don't argue much, but we got into what I thought was a small argument in the car. I had to fill up on gas, and I started to fill up my tank, and I asked him if he could finish filling it up for me. When he got back in the car, I noticed that it didn't cost as much as I thought it would, and he told me he didn't fill it up all the way, to which I responded, next time, fill it up all the way so that I don't have to stop again to get gas sooner. I paid for the gas, so it's not a money issue. Me saying this really set him off. He got in a really bad mood and was mad and kept saying, "Don't talk to me like that." I responded and said that I was sorry and next time I will ask nicer, and that it's not a big deal in the first place. I just wanted to let him know for next time. He continued to get angrier and said that you don't understand, don't talk to me like that. At this point, now I got mad and I said you need to learn how to communicate with me better because simple conversations like this should not turn into arguments. And I was listening to him and apologizing to him, and now he needed to listen to the way that he was talking to me. He kept getting angrier, and at this point I got extremely angry and I raised my voice and I said, "F you." When I did this, he opened up the car door. We are driving on the highway with lots of traffic. I slammed on the brakes and I was shocked and I said, "Please don't do that. I love you. We can work this out." And he jumped out and walked across the highway. I pulled off to the side and I texted him and called him, just telling him to come back and that it isn't safe for either of us. He responded and said, "I'm done with you." He did come back to the highway and get back into the car after 10 minutes and then said, "Take me home." But this ultrasound is important to me and has taken me months to get, and I told him that I was going to go to the appointment in a calm tone. Of course I cried for like an hour because I'm pregnant and more emotional than normal. He went to the ultrasound without saying a word to me, and after the ultrasound, I went to the restroom, and when I came out, he was gone. He had Ubered home and taken all of the ultrasound pictures with him. I feel like he is completely wrong in this situation, and that him putting me and our unborn child in harm's way over his emotions is completely unacceptable and scary to me. I had plans to fly where my family lives in 2 months and give birth, and I'm thinking right now that after this I need to fly there now so I can feel safe and be around people who think rationally. However, I'm pregnant and my brain is definitely very foggy, and I'm open to the fact that I could be wrong in this situation. I know that I shouldn't have raised my voice, but I still don't think it's acceptable for him to put everyone in danger and is just still extremely angry with me, but he doesn't really communicate, so he won't talk to me. Alright, folks, what do you think of this situation?
I don't think Opie is being a jerk here. I think that it's perfectly reasonable to be frustrated and upset because what he did was uncalled
Oh,
for.
yeah.
It was very reckless, and I am very worried about his behavior here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very concerned. I'm wondering if there's something that's kind of gone wrong and that he needs counseling or needs to seek medical help, because if you two are normally rational, able to have good conversations, and he's never acted like this and he's suddenly acting very angry out of the blue like that, I'm wondering if there's some deeper medical reason for that, because that does not seem characteristic.
It could be, it could also be the stress of parenthood, which is another thing that you could talk about in therapy.
Yeah.
Or this also seems like the kind of thing people do sometimes when they're cheating is they get irrationally frustrated and angry with their
Yeah.
partner, and it just may be any number of things, but unless he is willing to communicate, you're not going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, well, and my big concern here is if it is something that's gone wrong inside of his brain and he needs some medical assistance pretty immediately, and they get him scanned and find out, oh, these anger issues are just because of something, some medical reason, then that's a completely different situation. But if this is him just acting like a dirtbag here and putting everyone's life in harm's way for no reason, OP really needs to get out of there and not
Mm-hmm.
take her chances. And I mean, even as is, even if there is a medical reason, she needs to make sure that she is safe and that she isn't in harm's way, and that
Yeah.
that this is not a good situation.
Oh, it also could just be a hallmark abuse situation
Yeah.
because sometimes abusers will wait until their partner is pregnant because then they're kind of trapped and can't leave, and that's when they'll really show who they are.
Yeah. So I would examine if there are any things like love bombing, seeing if that he's, done other things where, he's kind of begged for forgiveness and then showered you with gifts and then shown you like, oh, I'm a better person. So like if he has these bursts of anger where he suddenly gets angry and then, does all these big showy things to get you to forgive him, then that's not a good situation, and that is probably an abusive situation at that point.
And even if he doesn't do that specifically, like the big concerning thing is the way he is acting out and then kind of blame, it seems like placing the blame on OP for
Oh
all
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
Because that's a classic abuse tactic is to turn it around and be like, well, I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for you. This is
yeah,
all your fault. You're
yeah.
making me jump out on the highway, which you're not
Exactly.
doing.
This is a Darvo move. So, but let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Corbono says, go to your family stat. What he did was immature and downright dangerous. You made a simple comment and he blew up like that? Getting out of a moving car? In traffic? Please go to your family. You need to feel safe and comfortable. Whatever he is doing is not what you need right now. And She Be Me says, if I were you, then I would be packing my things tonight. The moment he jumped out of the car, I would have left him there. He didn't have a single thought or care about your pregnancy or your well being. Do you want to raise a child with someone like that? You really need to get somewhere so that you can clear your head and think about everything. And Runner Girl says this, and he still asked to go home, expecting her to miss the appointment. I don't care if you had been that way more rude to him. This is not the time to pull a dangerous stunt and or ask OP to miss her appointment. I mean, I think these people all make really good points.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is absolutely true. Like, what he did here was completely unacceptable. Who does that? Who's like, I'm gonna jump out of a moving vehicle?
Apparently, this guy.
Alright, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Helping My Ex-Husband and Ruining His Relationship with Our Kids? I'm a 35-year-old female, and I was married to my ex-husband for 5 years, and we have 2 kids with him, a 6-year-old male and a 4-year-old female. We divorced 2 years ago when I found out that he had another kid before we met and is a deadbeat dad to that kid. The fact that he hid it from me for 7 years while we were together just made it worse. I knew it only when he was sued for child support. When we divorced, I used that information and the fact that the kids are too young to get full custody. He has visitation rights contingent on child support. I don't really need the money. I'm in a high income profession and my parents are quite wealthy too. Airtight prenup meant that he got nothing in the divorce. He works as a teacher and it doesn't pay much. He owed quite a lot to the other kid. Current child support plus back payment installments. And this eats up most of his income. He doesn't own a home and living expenses here are very high. Basically, he hasn't paid child support for over a year now and as per court order has no visitation rights. I wouldn't have minded him visiting still, but he asked me for money to hang out with the kids. I used to give him it to preserve the relationship with the kids at least, but it came to the point where he was stealing from me. As in, he would ask for $100 but spend 20 on the kids max. He started doing this almost regularly, and when I confronted him, he accused me of leaving him homeless and penniless in the divorce, hence I owed it to him anyways. As much as I want the kids to still have a dad, I was tired of being taken advantage of. I stopped giving him money. He couldn't take the kids out anymore. Kids missed him, but I refused to budge on this. When they asked me, I would call him so they could speak to him. His family and friends started accusing me of driving a wedge between him and the kids, so I told them the truth. that I never stopped him, but stopped funding it. He is calling me a jerk for refusing to help him, ruining the relationship with his kids, and humiliating him in front of his family and friends. Am I the jerk? Just from the comments to clarify, if he wants to take the kids out anywhere, it's fine with me. He can even spend time at my home with the kids, which is okay too. But he is refusing to even visit without me paying him first. Alright folks, what do you think?
I don't think Opie's being the jerk here. I mean, if he needed money to take the kids out or to get the kids things, like I could understand it a little more, but it sounds like he wants this money for his own personal use and he's kind of using the kids as pawns to get money.
Yeah, I would say if OP wants to give him money, then OP should tell him to make an itemized deduction list of the money that he spent on the kids, and then OP can pay him back appropriately if they even wanted to do something like that. But I don't think OP owes him any money at this point in time.
Yeah, and I really don't like how he is using the kids as a bargaining chip. Like, this emotional manipulation here is not cool. And then trying to get his family and friends, like, to harass OP when he is consciously choosing not to see the kids because he's not getting paid for it.
Yeah, this isn't OP's fault. OP did nothing wrong here. It turns out that he's a deadbeat dad, and he's still a deadbeat dad. Like, he just wants nothing to do with the kids.
Yeah, and there's more information in the comments, but yeah, it sounds like he wasn't a good dad to them before the divorce, and now it's just worse because he's not in the same household, so he has even less obligation.
Yeah, and speaking of the comments, let's actually get into those because I think people will find them quite interesting. And Null Sun Golden says, what state do you live in that would give you full custody based on the children's ages? What state allows child support to be linked to visitation? So here is what would really happen in this scenario. Unless he is determined to be an unfit parent or voluntarily gives up his rights, he would get 50-50 custody. You would pay child support. Now, if you use your money and influence to get an unfair divorce decree and are now withholding his children from him after ruining his life, then yes, you are a jerk. And OP replies, I won't disclose my location, but I will give some reasons. He never took part in childcare, saying that the kids need their mom more. I had a nanny to help me instead. He doesn't even know what they like to eat or what they're allergic to. All he did was take them out once in a while for ice cream or play with them for like 30 minutes a day. I had proof from the nanny cam that he did nothing, not financially or physically. He just played games or hung out with his friends. When I realized how little he contributed, I wanted to be separated. But my Orthodox family convinced me that a father figure was important to the kids, especially since I could easily afford to hire help. Knowing this secret was the last straw for me. His bank statements, nanny cam, and hired help all vouched that he wasn't capable of being a dad. He didn't even fight me for it, saying that childcare is a woman's work anyways. His past history was stated as a reason for linking visitation to child support. I said that I don't want it, but the court mandated him, saying that it's the least that he can do for his children. It's not a high amount, it's almost nominal. If he lapsed 12 months, I had a right to withhold visitation. He paid for 2 months till his other case ended. That was it. I didn't enforce it. All right, folks, with that little bit of information, what do you think of the dad here?
Yeah, I think it just shows that he is not interested in being a dad. He's just interested in the money that OP can provide him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what this boils down to. He just sees the kids as a way of getting money, and now that the kids can't provide him with money, he just doesn't even bother taking care of them because he's like, I can't get any money out of them, so they're no use to me. And Koo78 says, how about you give him $100 and each time he produces receipts that he spends at least 80% of it, you keep practicing and going. He doesn't produce receipts, next time it's 50. After that, it's nothing. And OP replies, I used to give him over $100 every visit, till one day my kids said that they were hungry after an hour visit. I casually asked if they didn't eat, and they said nope. I asked my ex, and he said that he didn't want to ruin their appetite. Fair enough. He visited the next day and wanted another $100 for gas and ice cream. Gas and ice cream! I asked if he didn't have the money from yesterday. He blew up at me, telling me that how he has so many expenses and no money, while I'm rolling in dough in a mansion. How he was penniless while I lived a rich life and kicked him onto the streets. said I owed him money. I paid him that day too, just so I didn't upset my kids, and he bought them candy for $10. That was it. That's when I called him and said that while he is always free to visit, I won't be giving him any more money. He blew up at me again, blaming me for all of his hardships, but I just didn't budge anymore. And I mean, I think that his attitude is just garbage here, right? He's acting like OP ruined his life when there's one person who ruined his life.
Right.
He did.
I mean, you have to be a good partner if you want your partner to support you indefinitely. You can't do nothing and just assume they're always going to support you.
Yeah, and the fact that he lied for 7 years, like, he had any number of opportunities to come forward and explain the situation to OP, probably while they were dating. That would have been important, right? But he chose to withhold his information. He withheld the fact that he was a father to a child that he was not taking care of, and accumulating debt on top of that. So I really have very little pity for an individual like this.
And he takes no responsibility for his own actions,
Oh, yeah.
too, which is a big issue. Like, he's just like, oh, this is all you, when it's like, dude, maybe if you hadn't been like such a bad father and partner, you would still have that gravy train.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that he spent $100, even though it was on gas and ice cream. Like, this must be really good ice cream and really good gas if he's spending $100 on it, right? I don't know. I just think that, again, it seems more like he only was taking care of the kids to actually get paid for it. Like, he's a high earner babysitter or something like that. Pay me $100 an hour and I'll take care of your kids.
That are actually my own kids.
Yeah. All right, folks, and our last letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Embarrassing Somebody by Pretending to be Japanese? Backstory, I'm a 20-year-old female, and I have a Japanese name, even though I'm not ethnically Japanese. My mom is Korean, and my dad is British. They met and fell in love while studying in Japan, and they had me there after marrying. Well, we lived there until I was 14 before moving to the States. This will be important later on. Today, a group of my roommate's friends came over to study with her, and I happened to be in the living room when they arrived. They were introducing themselves to me, and when I said my name, I have a pretty common Japanese girl name, so it's pretty hard to be mistaken about its origin. And one of the girls made a disgusted face and laughed at me, saying that it was so dumb. She said that she was Japanese American and that I was culturally appropriating her country as a white person. I tried to explain that I lived in Japan for a while, and that was why, but she kept insisting that I was lying, and that if I was telling the truth, then I would be able to speak the language. Since she put it like that, I started talking to her in Japanese, basically explaining where I lived there and asking which prefecture her parents were from, etc. She ended up stuttering through a sentence in an awkward manner before leaving in a huff. Later, my roommate told me that I embarrassed her by pretending to be more Japanese than an actual Japanese person and appropriating the culture. And her friends expected an apology. My roommate doesn't think that I did anything wrong, but now I feel bad. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
I don't think Opie's being a jerk here. First of all, Opie didn't pick her own name, and so it's really weird to blame someone for a name they were given.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's not cultural appropriation to learn a language or study abroad or live abroad.
Yeah.
Like, none of these things are cultural appropriation.
Yeah. And I will point out that OP spent 14 years in Japan, which is and grew up there, meaning that culturally she probably has a lot of traditions from Japan that she just naturally would have taken up. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. This doesn't scream to me like it's cultural appropriation. You can't really appropriate a culture that you grow up in, is kind of my opinion.
Well, that's the thing, is that she grew up immersed in Japanese culture, and I just, again, none of this feels appropriative because it's very good to learn languages and to engage with other people in languages. Like, I find this all very, very, and I understand to some degree the frustration of the Japanese American girl, particularly if she feels disconnected from her culture,
Yeah, yeah.
to see other people like who she thinks are appropriating. But again, it was just a name.
Well, and then on top of that, like I actually want to talk about her a lot because she was a very rude individual, right? She came in, she said that she first laughed at OP's name, called her dumb, right? And then she said that OP was a liar and that she couldn't have grown up in Japan, and then said that she didn't speak the language even, right? And so I really just feel like this is just desserts more than anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And it's just, it goes to show that you can't judge whether someone knows the language or not based on how they look.
Yeah, and I think that again, this person really needed a good slice of humble pie. Like she was just beyond rude, and you don't can't expect to be rude to people like that. And OP was actually very gracious, if you ask me. Like OP could have been rude to this individual back, but they chose the high road in this particular case. And I don't think speaking to this person in Japanese was a mean or rude thing to do. It just proved her wrong, you know?
Or pretending to be Japanese. Like
Yeah.
OP never during this conversation claimed that she was Japanese.
Well,
She
but she pretty much is, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it wasn't like OP, was like came in traditional Japanese garb and like had no connection to the culture and just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
walking around pretending like she was Japanese or something like that. There was no element of appropriation at all in this interaction, and it's not pretending to be Japanese to speak Japanese.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. And I mean, I do think that there's a difference, and I know that not everyone's going to kind of agree with me, but I think there's a difference between learning about a culture and taking it seriously and respecting it as opposed to taking aspects of a culture just to kind of incorporate as like a just
Decorative.
decorative and or erasing the fact that that culture exists.
Yeah.
I think that there is a really big difference between those two types of actions.
And there's sometimes a fine line between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation,
Yeah.
but I don't think OP is crossing any lines at
No, no,
all.
exactly. I just kind of wanted to point that out too. Like, and I think again, again, this friend is just completely out of line, and she was rude, and I can't blame OP for being upset about this because this was probably a pretty upsetting situation, and they're confused right now because this person was so like rude to them too. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And it's J92 says, not the jerk. You didn't choose your name, and you were literally born in Japan. That makes you Japanese. You're not just pretending to be. Edit. I learned today that Japan does not grant citizenship by birth. Thanks for the info. But being born in Japan and growing up there and spending most of her life there is enough to make me think that it's still part of her identity. And it sounds like OP feels that way as well. And edit 2, I'm not from the United States, guys. So, those telling me that I must think that the US is the only country in the world simply because I didn't know this fact, please stop. It's okay to learn. I don't know everything. Also, there are other countries that grant citizenship by birth other than the United States, like mine. So, directly assuming that I'm from the US doesn't make you any better. And Purple Vermont says, not the jerk, the Japanese American guest was way out of line, making a rude comment about your name, accusing you of lying when you told her that you had grown up there. You weren't pretending anything. You have a Japanese name because that's your name that your parents chose for you, and you speak the language because you grew up there. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got a beverage of choice right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Why do mummies make good spies?
Well, I can tell you exactly why mummies make good spies. Because mummies are better at spying than daddies, and it's just a known fact. And that's why, you see all these spy agencies, they'll choose women. I don't know. They're just better. They're good at disguising and makeup and stuff like that, and flash changing their appearance. Whereas most guys, they're like, I got a beard or not a beard, glasses. See, like the Superman disguise, it doesn't work in real life.
Wrong kind of mommy, but they know how to keep things under wraps.
That too. That too. And I have Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy, spectacular, special Saturday. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it a warning sign in the road.
Warning, don't jump out of car.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need that sign, but apparently we need that sign. Who knew? Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.